We are AFSA.
We are AFSA.
We are AFSA.
We are AFSA, proud of our past, looking forward to our future, and making a difference today.
So my name is Richard Scottie Wilson. I've been in the Air Force my entire life. My dad was in the Air Force. I was born at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. When I was a kid, I was in Civil Air Patrol. When I was in high school, I was in junior OTC, so I always knew I wanted to be in the service. I come from a military background, family-wise. Both my grandfathers, my uncles, my brothers, like I said, my father, they were all in the military, so I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I joined the Air Force in 1989. I've been in for 20 and a half years. I'm a command and control battle management operator, 1 Charlie 5, scope dope is what a lot of people know us by, but I've worked in air defense, counter drug, I've worked across the MAGCOMs, I've deployed 11 times. I've been a first sergeant, squadron superintendent, group superintendent. And here at headquarters USAFE, I work as the 1 Charlie 5 functional manager and the control and reporting center, functional area manager for the 606 down in Air Control Squadron down at Aviano. And so, in addition to those duties, for the last 2 years, I've been the A310 senior enlisted leader here for headquarters USAFE, Africa, working for Major General Thomas. And I'm just about to finish that up and go back and manage the CRC full time here in a few months. So, I'm married. My wife's Nick. And I have 3 daughters, Emma, Ellen, and Etta, and they are 8, 6, and 2 respectively. So that's a great question. I think over the course of my career, I think like anyone's career, if you've been in for any discernible amount of time, you probably got quite a bit of advice on airmanship or what have you, something that's kind of guided you through your career. And I think there's a few things that I've heard over the course of my career that have been impactful to me. So I know it's going to be cliche, but the first thing that really comes to mind is give 110%. Like I said, I know it's cliche, but there's a backstory to it. So I was stationed at Howard Air Force Base in Panama in the early 90s, working counter drug. And I had just put on senior airman, and my boss at the time was a Master Sergeant Ken Mackley. Ken Mackley is probably the one guy in my career that I can say that really set me on the right path, got me straight, and I think that had the most influence on me. I think most of us in our career, we have that one individual that defines that transition in our performance and our airmanship, and Ken Mackley was that for us. So again, this was a different time. It was the early 90s. Definitely a brown shoe, senior NCO, not worried about hurting feelings, by being honest. He told it like it was, but he expected the best from us, and he helped us get there. But I remember one day I came to work. Like I said, I had just put on senior airman, and I wasn't working at my full potential that day. Sergeant Mackley, just kind of off the cuff comment, said, "Well, I guess you're not going to be earning your senior airman pay today, are you?" And while it seems like something minor, the way I revered him, like I said, he was truly an inspiration to me as an airman. You know, that really hit me hard, and I don't know why, but I've always remembered that, and I think of that every day when I come to work. You know, whatever rank I am or capacity that I have, that I need to get 110% because that's what's expected of me. So that was the first thing. And so in line with that, my father also told me, again, my father was a career senior NCO. My father had told me that when he retired from the Air Force, that all anyone wants is to be inspired through example, inspired through deed. You know, we want to come to work and we want to believe what we're doing, especially, you know, if you've seen an airman come out of basic training and tech school, they usually hit their first base and they're just, you know, just tough as nails and you know, and ready to get to the job. And then as they go on, you know, they get into the rut of the job, and then some of that, you know, that blueness kind of peels off. And I think, like Sergeant Mackley was an inspiration for me. My father said, you know, all anyone wants is to be inspired. And I always keep that in mind when I interact with other people, to be that inspiration, whether it's where I wear my uniform, the effort that I put into a job, what the Air Force means to me. Because again, you know, our troops want to believe the Air Force means something, and that happens when they see that it means something to you as a leader. So again, be that inspiration, be that Sergeant Mackley for your troops or folks that you work with. And the third thing is my father told me, explained to me before I joined the Air Force, what taking care of airmen is all about. So I think for most supervisors, especially junior NCOs, CGOs, folks that are just supervising initially, they have a well-intentioned meaning behind what taking care of troops mean. Usually it means giving them decorations, pushing them for jobs, pushing next level, making sure their EPR ratings are on point. But the other side of that is, like my dad explained to me, was when you take care of your folks, it's the work that goes behind it to make sure that they're ready for that EPR, ready for that next job, ready for that promotion. If they're not performing at the next level, giving them that honest feedback to let them know they need to kick it up in order to be able to perform those jobs, being hard on them. That's what taking care of folks is all about, because then, and again, if you've been in the Air Force, obviously you've run into those individuals who progress through the ranks. We've seen them, maybe that very young senior NCO who doesn't know how to write, who is not a very good leader, and you wonder how that happened. How did they go through fast through the ranks without without being able to do that? And a lot of that is their supervision there is worried about getting them to the next level without worrying about their ability to perform at that next level. And that's what that taking care of folks is. There's two different sides of it. One of it is, making sure they're prepared for the next level, and the next is getting to the next level, pushing them for the decorations and the jobs and the quarterly awards as well. But, the other side of it too is making sure they deserve it. So, but those are the things that I remember most of my career that have had an impact on me. So I would put the Air Force core values on that billboard, so we'd be reminded every day of what should drive us. So when I came in the Air Force core values didn't exist. They came on later in my career, and I remember being an airman. It was something that we had to memorize. Integrity first, service before self, and excellence all we do. But you don't really internalize that as a young NCO or airman, what that actually means. Through my years maturing as an airman and an NCO, I've internalized them more, and I think that if I could put those up there and remind folks that, again, that is what can drive us every day if we use those core values in all of our actions, our conversations, our duties every day, we can't go wrong. There's a lot of thought that went behind the Air Force core values, and again, whatever you're doing every day, you need to be using them. For instance, EPRs. So again, when you sit down with a young troop or individual and you're giving them feedback from their EPR, it's never a comfortable situation, especially if the individual has work that they need to do or they're not performing at the level they need to. So again, integrity first. So the Air Force would say that, integrity first, utilizing that core concept, that you need to do the right thing, you need to be honest with that individual, because that's what the Air Force expects you to do. Service before self, again, it's not a comfortable situation, but you need to put the needs of the Air Force, the needs of the airmen above your comfort and be honest with it as well. Again, it may not make you popular, but in the long run, it's going to help the airmen, it's going to help the Air Force. And also, excellence is all we do, again, giving it that max effort to do the right thing. So, again, your loyalty is to the Air Force. Your loyalty is not to your airmen, at least in that capacity anyways. First, you have to be honest with your airmen. So again, using those core values. Another example is 1206s. So every quarter, the 1206s for our quarterly awards come across my desk. We board them. We go through the bullets line by line. There's usually a couple bullets in there that supervisors have kind of embellished, and I don't fault the supervisors. Of course, we want to put our folks in the best light, but as these things kind of go forward, these bullets kind of expand, where sometimes they turn into things the airmen didn't actually even do. Give you an example. When I was an airman, we put a young lady up for the 12th Outstanding Airman of the Year. She made it all the way to the final. So through the process of going through the wing, the MAGCOMs, and then up to half, some of the bullets kind of morphed into things that weren't necessarily what the individual had done exactly as it was written in the bullet. But the problem is at the half level, the people on the board meet with the individuals who are being put forward. So when they start asking questions about the bullets, that's never a comfortable conversation. So imagine our embarrassment that came back down as well. So again, even through counseling. So another way core values to utilize is through counseling, always being honest with your individual, using integrity. If the individual, like I said, if the individual has things they need to work on, coming out of your comfort zone to tell that individual, be honest with them, not being disrespectful or degrading, but making sure that you're doing the right thing with the core values. So that's what I would actually put up, because again, you can use those all through the day in anything you're doing, and that's what they're there for as well. And I think sometimes they just become cliche, or we just don't really remember them as well. But again, there's a lot of thought that went into them, and definitely the backbone of how we conduct business every day is our core values. So again, over the course of my career, I think like most of us, there have literally been hundreds of what I would consider failures that we've all had. So again, in a positive light, probably setbacks, or I would call them setbacks necessarily, or just, you know, roads less traveled maybe, or things that didn't turn out the way I thought they would. But so one specifically that I can go back to, and again, this is just a kind of a coincidence of events, but in 2003, I graduated from college, and my father, who was a great mentor of mine, sat down with me. We were talking about the possibility of going to OTS. And me being an officer was never something I really wanted to do, but my father convinced me that to serve in that next capacity, it was better for the Air Force, it was better for me, and it was the right thing to do. I had earned it at that point going to school and graduating. And like I said, through a series of events that had happened, my father passed away shortly after. I had an assignment in Korea, and then I was approaching 35, but I never ended up going to OTS, which of course I was pretty bummed about for a while. But then a couple folks that were in my bachelor's program became comm officers, and shortly after they got their commission, they were ripped. And so these are folks that had some serious time in, prior enlisted before they became officers. And I always think back about, you know, if I had actually gotten my commission, that probably would have been me as well. So again, it wasn't a setback or failure necessarily, because I wouldn't change anything, and I'm happy the way it turned out. But the other one, of course, being a chief, is the road to command chief, right? So most people who make chief, I mean 99% of people who can make command chief or make chief in the Air Force are asked if they want to be command chiefs, because, you know, all chiefs have the all-in philosophy. And it was just something I never ever wanted to do. And I've known quite a few folks who become command chiefs that were friends of mine, and most of them got 1 or 2 jumps with an 06 wing commander before they retired, which is great. It's fantastic to be able to wear the star and represent the enlisted. But the crazy thing is so like I said, 2 years ago I was hired to be the A310 here at headquarters USAFE, and so I'm on my 3rd general officer, and that never would have happened if I had become a command chief. And I'm finishing up, like I said, I'll finish up in the next 2 months and go back to managing the CRC, but that never would have happened if I was a command chief. And I'm just so grateful to General Thomas, the deputies here, Colonel Sierra, Colonel Truxa, for all the leadership they've shown me, all the division colonels and chiefs that I've worked with over the time that I've been here. It has just been such a humbling experience, and again, it's been the highlight of my career. It's been a great opportunity for me to serve in a greater capacity. And like I said, I am forever grateful. I'll never forget it. I've learned so much, but that never would have happened. I never would have got this position if I was picked up for command chief. So, you know, 2 years ago when I was hired initially, our Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, Chief Wright, was actually in this office and was talking to me about the path to command chief. And one of the things he actually said is that command chief's a great thing, it is, but there's a lot of opportunities out there for our chiefs to serve strategically and that are very important and that have an impact on our airmen as well. So, you know, to all our young chiefs out there, other folks that didn't get an opportunity to be a command chief or anything like that, just remember there's other opportunities out there as well that are also very fulfilling. So this goes back to my dad as well, and that's being your own worst critic. So I think most of us, through our interactions every day, get feedback from our supervisors and coworkers about our performance. But I think the one that holds us most to task is ourselves. Because even though the Air Force has a baseline standard that we're held to, I know what I'm capable of, and I know you know what you're capable of every day, and when you're bringing it, when you're not. So what I do every day is in the morning when I'm shaving or brushing my teeth or eating breakfast, I set a standard for myself that day, and then I check it that night when I go home. So again, whether it's my communication with others, whether it's writing, whether it's mentoring, I find something that I work on for myself. And again, like I said, and I just, if I don't meet the mark, I come back and I hit it again. But like I said, if you have any issue finding something you need to work on, there's the Airman Comprehensive Assessment Sheet. There's tons of stuff on there that you can pick out to work on. A blank EPR form, the little brown book. But pull something out, hold yourself to task every day. And you don't have to tell anyone you're doing it. It's just something you do to improve yourself as well. So that's what I've done for my I've done it most of my life. And it's just, it helps me stay true to myself. And like I said, and that when my EPR comes out, I know where I'm at in my heart of hearts. Whether I get an inflated rated or not, I know where I was at. It's always about being honest with yourself. So again, the man or woman in the mirror, the big A Airman in the mirror, check them first. But again, hold yourself to task. So I'm a lifetime member of AFSA, and if you aren't, you should be. AFSA's been around for a long time, and throughout my career, I can remember many situations that have come up regarding pay or medical or anything that was going on in the Hill where AFSA was there to represent us. So again, it comprised of active duty, retired, and civilian folks that are representing us. Just a great organization out there fighting the fight for us. So again, if you're not a member, become one. The more people we have, the louder we are, the harder it is to ignore. And for AFSA, thanks for what you do for our families, for us and our families and our rights, and continue to fight the fight.